Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Some of our colleagues have urged us to vote no on this bill and the subsequent bills. And I wonder about that recommendation. I wonder about it because we all recognize that we're not short of the funds right now because of the governor's blue lines. We know that there is $5.5 billion even after we consider the pressures that are on the budgets right now. And these total up to something in the neighborhood of $500 million, $500 to $600 million when you add them all together. So that still leaves something in the neighborhood of $5 billion of surplus funding. So the question really then revolves around the discussion we've been having about our schools, our secondary schools, K through 12, and how they're actually now have had their funding reduced by 55% of the governor's blue line. Again, my question is, if you vote no on these, exactly why do you think any dollar immediately revolves back to those school districts? It doesn't. All you're doing is taking money away from the students at Penn State, Pitt, Temple, Lincoln, and at the Penn Vet School. If we fail to pass these non-preferreds today, the students will suffer, but our K through 12 schools are not going to be any better off. Now, I'm perfectly happy to engage in a discussion about a supplementary appropriation to fill back in the money that the governor has blue-lined. And I'm also perfectly willing to have a discussion with all of you about how we might fund any shortfall for that. That is a worthwhile discussion. It ought to be had. But by failing to fund the non-preferreds, you don't have that discussion. You don't forward that discussion. You don't add a single dollar back to the schools. All you do is hurt these non-preferred institutions. We have plenty of opportunity to consider that separately, and I agree we ought to get to it as soon as possible. But let's not do something negative to these institutions and the students that are attending them. Let's not put further pressure on one group because we have concerns about another. You aren't solving a problem for the school districts by voting no. You are doing something positive and useful for all of these students if you vote yes, and I urge you to vote yes today.